meeting also for general funding cut study. And I had a phone call with the school district trying to find out how many students we had from El Rio Visa, because I was trying to have information to point out that it's really important to get that overpass, as well as getting other people from that area into town for work and for doctor's appointments and to use the library, etc. And then this morning I met with our city manager for tonight's agenda. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi.
Thank you, Mayor. On March the 18th, I attended the city's management staff meeting. On the 24th, I attended the Fire Safe Council meeting, the Yolo Fire Safe Council, which is working on putting together everything that they need to do to have our own Fire Safe Council. And I believe the mayor was on there as well as a number of local residents from the surrounding area of Winters and people in town as well. So it's a really good group that are coming together with a lot of ideas on what we can do in the future so we can be ready for these fires that are most likely inevitable. But on the 24th, I attended the Ed Spring Summit as well. On the 25th, another one of the city management staff meetings. Also on the 25th, I attended the Solano Economic Development Corporation, their annual luncheon, where I was asked to do a 2-minute presentation on what's going on in Winters and what are we working on, what are our plans for our future. So it was a very challenging, it was a new platform they used online that I had trouble getting my presentation up as well, but so did a lot of other people, almost all, there was 8 presenters, I think, from various cities around the area. And almost everybody had trouble. So it wasn't just me, but I was able to share some of the good things we're doing in Winters and some of the things that were in our economic development report, the recommendations in there. On the 5th, I met with the city manager for the agenda review, and that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As mentioned by the Mayor Pro Tem, I was also on the Zoom meeting for the Fire Safe Council, and we did have a couple of pretty good speakers at that meeting that were the leads with the Fire Safe Council in the Green Valley area, and then also up at Lake Berryessa. So it was a very informative meeting, and things seem to be moving along well with forming that Fire Safe Council for Yolo County. And then I was also on a Zoom meeting on the 1st for the Homelessness Commission. And then I've also met with the city manager for the agenda review last Friday, I believe it was. If you're not on the council, please mute yourself so we don't have all the background noise. Ashley, can you do that for us?
I'm trying to pinpoint which person it's coming from. Give me a second.
I think it's Alan Mitchell.
Ah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. With that, thank you everybody for your work on the committees and all the other things that we have to do. And we're going to move on to public comment. At this time, we will take comment from anybody from the public that wishes to speak on items which are not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to speak to an agenda item, we prefer that you wait until that item comes before us. But if you have something that's not on the agenda and you would like to speak, now is the time. You can use the hand up deal or wave at Ashley and she'll call upon you and then you can unmute yourself.
We
Ashley.
we did have a notification in the chat that Selena Alvarez wanted to submit public comment tonight.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Selena Alvarez. I'm the Associate Director at Empower Yolo. And today I am representing Child Abuse Prevention Council. Oh, sorry about that. Computer started playing a video. So I am receiving the resolution for the Child Abuse Prevention Council in honor of Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, which is this month in April. So on behalf of the Child Abuse Prevention Council and the Yolo County Children's Alliance and Empower Yolo and all of the many other service providers and government organizations that are part of the council, I want to thank you very much for supporting children and families today and all of the work that you all are doing to support the citizens of Winters. So the CAPC and the Children's Alliance are very excited to share our new website that we have that we're launching in honor of child abuse prevention. It's strongfamiliesyolo.org. And this project and this website is encouraging everyone to play a part in caring for YOLO children and strengthening YOLO families. So whatever your role is in the community, if you're a friend, an educator, a business owner, a parent, a person of faith, there are ways you can support children and families in Yolo County. This website also offers resources for everyone so they can learn how to recognize, intervene, report child abuse and neglect. So again, the website is available in various languages and it's strongfamiliesyolo.org. And again, thank you for recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month.
Thank you very much. Ashley, do we have anybody else?
I do not see anybody else at this time.
Okay, then we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Yes, thank you very much. We only have 2 items on the consent calendar this evening. The first are the minutes from the last council meeting on March 16th. And the second item is the resolution that we just heard about declaring April as Child Abuse Awareness Month. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no questions or concerns on the consent calendar, we will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember New and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi. Ashley, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're on to presentations. And first we have the Yolo County Youth Empowerment Summit, the YES Summit, with an update and upcoming civic engagement overview from the election. And I believe that's going to be Jesse Salinas from Yolo County. Jesse, welcome.
Good morning.
Yay.
Hey, good morning, Mayor Cowan and council members. Hello, how are you? Hope you're all staying safe and well in this environment we've got, but hopefully we're in better times ahead moving forward. So thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you all that we have going on in the elections world. As you know, we had an amazing election in 2020 in terms of the outcome of voters participating in our election. We had countywide an all-time record of participants. Typically, we have between 76 and 77% of voters participating in a presidential election. And in this election, we had 83% of registered voters participating. So we've shattered the record. Whatever it was before, going back 20 plus years, I couldn't see anything more than 77%, and we ended up at 83%. So just phenomenal turnout here in Yolo County for this past election. So that's always success, people participating in our election. And of course, we had a wonderful support from the city of Winters. We were able to have our location that was there at the center, right next to the park, right there in the community center area. And it was a great facility, plenty of space so people who wanted to come in person could vote. So wanted to thank the council and the members who were involved in helping us locate that, get that location squared up and prepared for the election. And we had a wonderful partnership in making that happen. So first of all, thank you for that success. And now moving forward, I get to share with you some exciting news. And I know a few of you have been involved with our past Youth Empowerment Summit. So I get to share with you that in 2020, we did have a summit. It was a virtual summit. It was a small kind of experiment because we didn't know what it was going to be like doing it virtually. So we learned a few things. We did it in the fall because as you all know, in the spring, we were all kind of shell shocked with what was taking place with the pandemic. So we postponed our 2020 till the fall, and we had an event in the fall of 2020 and kind of learned the virtual ropes, so to speak, on how to do some of these things virtually. And now we have a new summit for 2021 that is, and this is the announcement of it. So if you could slide up a little bit, this is our Youth Empowerment Summit. That this is our flyer that we've developed for our youth. We have it both in English and Spanish for the community, and we know that's very applicable in the Winters community to have it both in English and Spanish. And we want to make sure that students have an opportunity to participate. The students helped us with some of this design that we have there. And I want to share with you some exciting news. We just found out recently that our keynote speaker, I was trying to line her up and we got confirmation that she will be joining us. The new Secretary of State is Dr. Shirley Weber. She will be the keynote speaker for our event. So she'll be kicking off our event, and then we will have an opportunity to go in and have situations where there's dialogue and breakout sessions with elected officials and with students. We've also are trying to promote a new element to the Youth Empowerment Summit, which is what you have in front of you is we've also brought in some new partners. And one of the partners that we've brought in is Esri. For those of you who are wondering what Esri is, they are the dominant geographic information system entity in the United States. So for those of you, when COVID was hitting and you saw on the news, they would show this map with these red spots indicating where the pandemic was spreading, and you saw these national maps with all this information and data. It was Esri that those maps were coming from. And so they're internationally based, but they are a national leader on geographic information systems. And we've partnered with them because they're going to help provide some workshops for students who would like to learn how GIS works and how you can learn about your community and learn. It's a very powerful tool. It's called Story Maps, and to allow students to get that opportunity to learn about GIS, which not only is it incredibly interesting and informative for students to learn about it, but if it's something that they enjoy, they could pursue this as a career, because it's a good paying career to do this kind of work in the field of geographic information systems. So anyway, what we've done is we've partnered with Esri, and they are providing workshops for students who would like to participate and learn about this. And students, you can see there's going to be one for tomorrow, April 7th, and then another one on April 12th. We're sharing this in the community, and we want students to be able to get this hands-on experience. And then we're going to ask them to, they're going to have another chance on the 14th of April to even have some drop-in sessions if they have some questions and need some additional coaching with these experts in the Esri organization. And the idea is we want students to come up with their own story maps about their community. And then we're going to identify those that are the top stories that we want to have shared at the Youth Empowerment Summit. It gives an opportunity for students, again, to have their voice, to start to tell their story, and to be interactions with elected officials. So thank you for putting that up there. I appreciate that, Ashley. But some exciting news happening on multiple fronts about the Youth Empowerment Summit, the people who are going to be joining us. And this is my showing up here to invite each and every one of you as elected officials to come join us. You are what makes this a very special event for our students. They get a chance to sit down and meet with you and talk about subjects and topics that they really care about deeply. And so I want to invite you again personally to come sign up. You can go to yolosays.yes.com. That's our website, yolosays.yes.com. And you can register. You'll see at the top of the website, there's a banner and it'll say, register here. Your registration and the student registrations have been combined, so we're trying to streamline it. But you will see some of the things, like you don't have to put grade level. You can skip that part of those questions. And but there are topics that students have expressed that they want to be able to talk about. And it could be the education, environment. There's a long list of items that they've expressed interest in. And so we've listed them there. But you, as an elected, there's one special bubble that I've set aside for all of you as electeds. And it says, I am elected, all apply. So that means all those topics apply to you. You can talk about all of them because you, as an elected, the students want to hear from you. So it is going to be a wonderful experience for those of you who have not attended. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, as I think Mayor Cowan and Council Member Jesse Lauren will be able to tell you about some of their experiences. But I'm just excited, the fact that we've gotten the new Secretary of State to come in and be our keynote speaker. She has a very powerful testimony about voting and civic engagement that I've heard that I think will be very wonderful for the students to hear firsthand. And to think that, the new Secretary of State's carving out time on a Saturday morning. So just so you know, it's a Saturday morning, so be prepared. On a Saturday morning to come join us, shows that people are paying attention to what we're doing here in Yolo County and how we're putting young people, students, as a high priority, right? To get them and teach them the importance of voting and the importance of civic engagement and participating in our democracy in this way. So with that, I just wanted to share that information and to see if anybody had any questions or comments for me as I'm sharing the good news throughout Yolo County.
All right, thank you, Jesse. Council, is there any questions or comments for Jesse?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I can hardly wait to attend. Thank you.
All right, Ashley, do we have any public comment?
Kate Laddish has her hand up.
Okay, Kate, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And Jesse, I want to take a moment to thank you and the rest of your staff for everything you did with the elections this autumn, and particularly for reaching out to the different communities and I know the Winters Working Group met a number of times, and a lot of people who are on at this video meeting were certainly part of that. So again, I really appreciate you and your staff doing all of that. And I continue to be excited about what you're doing with the Youth Empowerment Summit, and hats off to you for having the Secretary of State for the state of California as your speaker. That's fantastic. I hope that that brings even more excited youth to the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Ashley, anybody else?
I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, well, Jesse, it's always good to see you. And I will attest to the fact that the Yes Summit is a very good event that is a lot of fun to attend and participate in. I have done it in the past, and I think it does a lot for the kids that come and participate. And we really appreciate all you do outside of your normal duties of making sure our elections, at least in Yolo County, go smoothly. And of course, we all got to thank you for taking our property tax money. So, but definitely thank you for all that you do putting this on. I know it's a big task, but it's well worth it. It's a very good event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. Thank you, council members. Looking forward to seeing you there. I think you will enjoy it. And I'm sorry, Pierre, you're saying goodbye, or do you want to say something? I saw your hand.
I just want to thank you also. You do a great job and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so great again to have the support of the community and elected officials as we help our young folks, our young students and young people to understand the importance of the role that you play in our society, because that's, the heart and soul of our democracy is what happens at the local level. And that's part of my mission, is to share that important role that not only school boards and County Board of Supervisors, but city council members and all the work that you do tirelessly for your community and the impact that you have and the important decision making that you do every single day. There's so much value into that. And to me, this is part of what makes our country great. And so that's my mission, is to kind of share that message and deliver it so that students understand it, so that they can feel proud about being part of this amazing country that we have that allows for this kind of dialogue and conversation to take place. So thank you for your support. Looking forward to seeing you all on the 24th. It is a Saturday, like I said, 9 to 12, and it's going to be a great time. So thank you again.
Thank you, Jesse. All right, we're going to move on to our next presentation, which is all about mosquitoes and fight the bite. And I think we have our local representative, Gar House, is probably going to have a few words to say.
No, actually, all I want to say is that Gary is here, and Gary is the man who's going to speak for us. And he's,
Okay.
as you know, he's the director of the Sacramento Yolo Mosquito Control District. So Gary, take it away.
Thank you, Gar.
Great. Thank you, Gar, for the intro. I appreciate that. Yes, my name's Gary Goodman. Hopefully you guys can see the screen here as I have a presentation. And I'm here to talk a little bit about mosquito control and what we're anticipating for this upcoming season. And we always appreciate the invitation for the council to talk about what we're anticipating for this upcoming season, what we expect, and some of the challenges that we've been facing over the last couple of years. And so, our goal is to help provide safe, effective, economical mosquito and vector control, not only so that you can enjoy your backyard barbecues without being bothered by mosquitoes, but of course, disease transmission and trying to prevent people from getting sick. And so I think something that we've definitely learned in the last year and some change with this pandemic hit is that, we really need to focus a bit more on public health, and specifically public health infrastructure and exchange of information and surveillance and those types of things, because there is definitely carryover. While mosquitoes and the COVID pandemic are very different, essentially transmission, contact tracing, and really good information to the public and information about what it is that we do and how we do it is very important so that people are informed. We do operate under the California Health and Safety Law. There was in 1926 in California, they enacted the Mosquito Abatement Act. So we've been around for quite some time. Our district has been around for 80 years. So different mosquito breeding sources all around. Mosquitoes need water to breed. And so you're looking at essentially stagnant water. So there's a lot of things from wetlands up in the upper left-hand corner to backyard swimming pools that have turned green, to just water in old tires or dog dishes. And specifically, one of the challenges that we have is not necessarily what we can see from outside, like rice fields or wetlands, very large sources, but really what are in people's backyards. Are people breeding mosquitoes on their own property and therefore causing a bit of an issue for us to be able to try to protect the community from vector-borne disease. So we always have a very active outreach program. In fact, you have a native daughter, Luz Marie Robles, who's from Winters, is very active. She is our PIO for Sacramento and Yolo County, and is very good at trying to get information out to folks about what they can do to try to help protect themselves. So our district goes through what we call integrated mosquito management. The first one is public information. That starts with Luz, whether it be press releases, social media posts, advertisements that we have on the various methods, but also community outreach. And while that's been very difficult in COVID, we've have tried to get information and start to do more Zoom calls. So if there are things that you in your community would like us to give a presentation on mosquito control, please let us know. More than happy to put those things together because we want to make sure that people in the community understand what it is that we do and what they can do to try to help prevent mosquito breeding and, of course, disease transmission. The second component to that is what we call surveillance, which essentially is setting traps. And we set traps. So for the most part, almost every day throughout the district, we want to gauge the mosquito populations. In our area, we have about 23 different species of mosquitoes. Not all species transmit disease, but all of them can bite. Some bite just birds, some bite mammals, but we want to try to make sure that we're keeping tabs on all of those mosquito species to try to figure out what the population is doing at any point in time during the season. And then, of course, in part of that surveillance aspect is the testing for disease. And the most prevalent disease that we have here in the Sacramento Valley is West Nile virus. We've had that since 2004. West Nile is a bird disease, so it's carried by birds and vectored by mosquitoes. And so we have the right types of birds and mosquitoes that will keep West Nile here for forever, probably. So it's something that we want to make sure that the public is aware of, the basic things that they can do to try to help prevent that. Then we go into biological control. That's our mosquito fish. We have 23 ponds here at our Elk Grove facility geared towards breeding mosquito fish, and we plant about 3,000 pounds of fish per year just in Sacramento and Yolo County. That includes rice fields and wetlands, backyard swimming pools, koi ponds, all types of things where mosquitoes may breed in that stagnant water. We will plant mosquito fish free of charge. Then we go through ecological management, and essentially that's working with landowners like U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, even general farmers in terms of are they producing mosquitoes on their property, and are there things that we can do to give them better clues as to how to manage their property to help minimize that. So
Gary, I'm sorry to interrupt. Luz sent me a message and asked that you advance the slideshow. It's not playing.
Oh, it's not playing.
No, you should be on slide 3 and it's not going through the slideshow for you.
Oh, okay.
I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's quite all right. So yeah, no. So what are you seeing currently? Is just
The first slide.
just the first slide. Oh boy. Yeah, I was already on slide 5. I was motoring along here. I'm not sure why it's not advancing then, because it's advancing on mine, obviously. I guess I can stop share and try to share again.
Would you like me to try and share from my screen and see if I can get it to work? I've been having issues with share.
There it is.
I may have fixed
How
it.
about that? Is that any better?
There it goes.
I just won't put it on the full screen. I'll just do it from this.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned, ecological management, we have a backhoe and dump truck. We do work for landowners to be able to try to reduce mosquito breeding on their own property. And then the last method of integrated mosquito management that we use is chemical control, and that's pesticides. That's materials, larvicides, and adulticides. We try to target the majority of our applications in the larval stage. So mosquitoes need water to breed, and they breed in that water. And so we try to target that. And that's again with rice fields that have that stagnant water, backyard swimming pools, irrigation ditches, all of those types of things is where we target. But once we do have adult mosquitoes, and specifically ones with high abundance, and in the winters area, you guys are surrounded by agriculture and specifically quite a number of rice fields that are well within the flight range of mosquitoes, then we will do aerial applications and or ground applications to try to target those flying adult mosquitoes. And of course, if we do detect high virus activity in a particular area, we will look to do adult mosquito control in that method as well. So West Nile virus in California, we've had in the last couple of years been a few down years, only 200 and so, or a little over 200 human cases throughout California. However, I want to make sure that we're not minimizing this, because CDC, most of these human cases that get reported are actually neuroinvasive form of the disease, which requires hospitalization, can lead to paralysis, blindness, very significant severe symptoms. And CDC actually estimates that for every neuroinvasive form of the disease, you actually have anywhere from 30 to 70 additional infections of the disease of people that just felt sick, never got diagnosed. And so this disease goes significantly underreported. And that's why we want to make sure that people are aware of what the concerns are and very basic things that they can do to try to help prevent that. So overall, you would see potentially anywhere from 6,000 to 15,000 West Nile cases per year in California. So here's West Nile virus activity that we had last year in Yolo County. As you can see down here in winters, we didn't really detect anything, didn't detect any dead birds or mosquito samples that tested positive, but we did have quite a bit in the other population centers of Yolo County, specifically in Davis and Woodland, with both mosquito samples testing positive along with dead birds that were tested positive. Now, one of the major concerns that happened just this past year in winters was invasive mosquitoes. And so, as I mentioned before, we have about 23 different species of mosquitoes that are endemic to our Sacramento Valley. And what we found last year in winters was Aedes aegypti. And this is it's called the yellow fever mosquito. And typically this is found in Asia and in South and Central America. But it started to steadily make its way into California. And up until last year, or 2 years ago, we detected it in Sacramento County. Last year, we detected it in winters. And so the challenge associated with this is they love small cryptic sources. They can breed in just a bottle cap of water. There's a documentation of mosquito breeding in a paper or a potato chip bag. So these are sources that are very difficult for us to find because typically they want to be in your backyard. And so it's very easy for us to spot rice fields, very difficult for us to spot those mosquito breeding sites that might be in your backyard. And the concern with this particular mosquito is it's a very efficient vector of exotic diseases like Zika, dengue, and chikungunya, which we have imported cases of every year. And we want to make sure that if we don't want to have this particular mosquito species established here, because then it may lead to local transmission of those diseases. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So this is what we detected last year in the city of Winters in terms of locations of where we actually found this invasive species. Now, when we talk about migration, this mosquito did not fly here into Winters. It was brought in possibly on a pot, maybe somebody that moved, those types of things. And then it started to proliferate in the area. So as you can see, it's relatively widespread in the heart of the city of Winters. We did some very active treatments this last year, both larviciding and adulticiding throughout Winters to try to be able to combat that. So far this year, we have not yet detected these Aedes aegypti mosquitoes back in Winters, but we typically probably won't see that until the latter part of the summer. But we want you to be aware this is a concern for us, and the city was very helpful in terms of trying to get the word out via the newspaper and newsletters, postings on your website, those types of things. We're very active in trying to help communicate to the residents of Winters what it is that we were doing, why we were doing it, and why this was a problem. So again, common invasive mosquito breeding sources, this is what they like. And these are some pictures that we actually got, I think, from Winters. So you can see some of these buckets and things like that are perfect examples of where this particular mosquito would like to breed. So one of the messages that we try to get to residents is to take a look in your backyard, dump any standing water that you may have. You may have to scrub some of the containers that you have because their eggs can last a long time. But these are very difficult things for us to find because we don't have the resources to be able to try to go door to door and find all of these potential cryptic sources that we may have in the area. So one thing we are looking at to try to help combat this, because it is so resource laden, is some innovative control strategies, and specifically what we call sterile insect technique. And so this is something that USDA has been using for years. They've used it for screwworm, they've used it for medfly. And essentially what happens is you sterilize male mosquitoes, which sounds horrible, but you sterilize male mosquitoes and then you release those male mosquitoes into a neighborhood. And because male mosquitoes don't bite, they only feed on nectar. There's no risk to the population, and then these sterilized males mate with the females, and then the female progeny is no good. And so it's a very innovative tool that we're looking to explore, and there's a number of different avenues to be able to try to do this. There's been trials that have been happening in Fresno, Southern California, Florida, specifically the Florida Keys, and we'll be investigating this for the upcoming season. We wanted the city to know that here's a potential tool that allows us not to have to use pesticides, but to try to use the biology of the mosquito itself. And so there are different types of doing this. And as we move forward with that, we'll keep the council and the city and the residents informed as to what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. So moving forward, again, we're going to explore some of the use of that SIT and other control methods. We'll continue surveillance in the area. We don't anticipate really finding these 80 species again until probably late summer, because that's just typically what their biology is. But again, it's a significant challenge for us at the district. And of course, we want to make sure that the residents are protected, because these mosquitoes, not only can they transmit disease, but they're very aggressive day biters and they love people. So these are the ones that are probably going to bother you when you're outside of your house. Always doing outreach opportunities and anything that we can do to try to help promote that. The district also, I'll try to put in front of the camera here, we buy this repellent wipes. These are repellent wipes that you can put on. We buy this stuff by the pallet. So if you have events that you are going to be doing this summer and you need some of that repellent, please reach out to our district. We'll be more than happy to drop those off. GAR's done an excellent job of delivering repellent to a number of different locales over the past couple of years. So with that, I'll take any questions. You can get more information at our website, which is fightthebite.net, or give us a call at our phone number, 1-800-429-1022. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Gary. Is there any questions from council before we go to public questions? Okay. I know I did see Mary Ann Boyer's hand up. Mary Ann, go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for that valuable information. I know I used to have a koi pond, and your group was very helpful with the mosquito fish. What my concern is, we have this huge, what people call a mosquito plant. Do they work at all?
Well, there are plants that have natural repellency products.
Yeah, it has that citron smell.
Yeah, it has a citron smell,
yeah.
so it can work. Absolutely. I mean, but is it going to always work? The answer is, kind of no, but it definitely does not hurt. So there are definitely some plants. There's things like wintergreen that have some repellency properties and even some insecticidal properties that when the mosquito can land on that, if they pick up enough of it, they don't like it so much. So they tend to figure it out and not land on those plants anymore. So the nice part would be is if you have those, then you're pushing all of those mosquitoes to your neighbor. So,
okay.
I'm not sure who lives around you, Mary Ann, but be very careful there.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Gar.
This is Gar. I just want to give a plug, not only to Gary, but also to Luz and really the entire staff. I've had the pleasure of being with them for several years now, and it really is a great organization. And we're very fortunate actually, because it's an innovative and creative group. And it's really highly regarded throughout the state of California. People come to look to SAC Yolo for leadership. And so Gary and Luz and the rest of the staff have done a really, really fantastic job of providing that kind of, newness and innovation. And on top of that, the district is a little bit odd in that it is both agricultural and it has a lot of urban areas too. So it makes it like they have a dual role so they know both ends, so to speak, of mosquito control. So it really is a fantastic group to work for, and we're very fortunate to have such a progressive group. So thanks to everybody.
Right.
Thank you, Gar.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Gar.
I thought you were going to say we knew both ends of the mosquito, and I said, I hope so.
All right. If there's no further comment, we'll say thank you to Gary and to Gar. I think in the last few years, especially since Gar came on board as our representative to the mosquito vector, we've never been so well informed about mosquitoes as since we've had Gar. So thank you both very much. And just a reminder to everybody in every organization, the mosquito repellent is free.
Yes.
So it's available all the time for free. So if you got an event going on, give them a call.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move on to our first discussion item, which is about our development impact fee report. And I think this is going to be probably some of our city manager and some of our financial director, Shelley.
Good evening, City Council. Before you tonight is our annual AB 1600 Development Impact Fee Report. The government code requires that we submit an annual report regarding the collection and expenditure of our impact fees. So this is the report that we're submitting. We have 9 impact fee funds, and only one of the impact fee funds had any expenditures for anything other than cost allocations for maintaining the funds. And that, excuse me, and that's the street impact fee. We worked on a traffic master plan update, and so between June 30th, 2019 and June 30th, 2020, we spent $45,157 on that. We had a significant amount of collection of impact fees because all of the homes that are being built in the Homes by Town, Callahan, and Aspire subdivisions are paying their impact fees as they submit their homes to get a final so that they can be sold and occupied. So the first page of the report lists all 9 of the various impact fee accounts, and then each account is discussed in detail. I include the impact fee schedule so that you can see what's being collected for those impact fees, and then I show the last 5 years worth of collections for the impact fees and what we've been expending funds for during that 5-year time period. So for example, under the street impact fee, we, in a 3-year time period, we expended funds for the West Grand and Main Street signal. We expended funds for the traffic master plan, and we expended funds for AB 1600 update, some for the habitat conservation. And we had some allocated costs, which are passed through a cost allocation plan that are allocated out from mostly finance, but also from the city manager's office for managing, maintaining, and reporting on the expenditures and revenues and handling all the transactions. So we've done that for each of the 9 impact fee funds, and rather than going through each individual fund, I would like to take questions at this point.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Shelley on the impact funds?
Yeah, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Shelley, I think just a quick question and maybe clarification for some of the people out there, but I believe when we collect these funds, we have 5 years to spend them. And I'm just curious, are we meeting all those goals, stuff we collected 5 years ago, we've spent, or are we on track with that?
We don't actually have 5 years to expend them. We have to report after 5 years, and we have to explain why, if we haven't expended them, why we haven't, and how we're make findings on how we're going to expend those. And you will be seeing that report coming to you at a council meeting soon. So there are a couple of fees that we did spend all of them. We spent all of the street impact fees about 2014-15, and we spent all of the park fees when we did the trail along Fuda Creek. So those I know, and we had overexpended actually. The impact fees for the sewer plant had to borrow money from O&M to put in some of the improvements, and we finally have paid all of that back. So 3 of the 9 for sure have been spent in a 5-year time period. The newest one, which is the storm drain, the flood fee, we've only had 1 collection, and that was last year or the year before. So we haven't had a lot. But I will be coming forward with all of that with an explanation of what it's been spent for and making findings for moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on council got questions for Shelley? If not, Ashley, do we have any public comment yet for Shelley?
I am not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, then I believe we need to have a motion to receive and file the development impact fee report.
I move the item.
Okay.
New seconds.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. We'll take a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Councilmember Anderson,
You're muted, Harold.
He's muted.
Councilmember Anderson, you're muted.
There you go.
Aye, this is my vote.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, then I think we will move on. And now we're going to consider modifying the city hall hours. I think this would be Kathleen.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. So this item relates to reopening City Hall next Monday for walk-in traffic. And as part of reopening City Hall, I'm hoping we can consider modifying City Hall's hours to be more consistent with our staffing levels. So primarily that relates to Fridays and the lunch hour. So by way of background, prior to the pandemic, City Hall has been open or was open to walk-in traffic Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We closed City Hall early in the pandemic, and then we reopened back again, I think in the May-June timeframe. And then when we entered the purple tier related to significant spread of COVID, we closed City Hall to walk-in traffic. Most of the staff have been available and have been on-site or working a combination of on-site and remote. But we're preparing to open back up next Monday, now that we're back in the orange tier or in an orange tier for the first time. So as part of that, we'd like to talk about modifying City Hall's hours. So there are 8 full-time office-based employees that work out of City Hall. I am one of the 8. The other ones are the city clerk, the human resource manager, the environmental services manager, and our finance director, plus the 3 staff in the finance department. The other employees that come in and out of City Hall are either part-time or they're field-based or they're a combination of remote, field, and on-site. So there are only 8 employees that currently are based out of City Hall that are here to answer phones and greet the public. Historically, the city employees have been offered what's called a 980 schedule, and that 980 work schedules allows employees to work a 9-hour day Monday through Thursday, and then they work an 8-hour day on a Friday and take every other Friday off. And this is called the 980 schedule. It's pretty common in the public sector, and it's a really attractive benefit for public sector employees, particularly when we try and balance out our salary schedules with good benefit package. And this is a quality of life benefit that's really attractive, and it helps us attract and retain employees here at the City of Winters. So what's bringing this to light is on Fridays, because of the 980 schedule, we could have on staff on any given Friday 3 or 4 people that may actually be at work that on a particular Friday. And about a month ago, I was one of only 2 employees that were in the building that day. And while the building is closed to public traffic, that's okay, although the phones ring off the hook and there's an expectation that, you know, we're going to get somebody, but we're not always here to answer the phone. But if we reopen to walk-in traffic, it becomes really problematic if we're only going to have 3 or 4 people in the building on a given Friday. So what I'm recommending is that all the employees who are based in City Hall switch their schedules so they all have the same 980 day off, the same Friday off, and then we would have full staffing on the Fridays that City Hall would be open. So for example, if we begin next week and we reopen to walk-in traffic on Monday, the 12th, we would be closed Friday the 16th and then closed every other Friday thereafter. But the days that we're open, we would have all of the employees here at the same time. So we would have the usual 8 to 10 people in the building on the Fridays that we're open. And I think there will be some benefits to that. It allows for better coordination among staff on those Fridays. I think we better meet service expectations on the Fridays that we're open when we have staff here and present. And I think it just will be a better service to the community with a fixed schedule. So the recommendation is that we adjust the employee schedules And then we adjust the city hall schedule. So we are open every other Friday and then closed every other Friday. We would maintain the hours of 8 to 5. We wouldn't adjust the public safety hours. They would still maintain their schedule. Public Works would still maintain their schedule. We're really just talking about the employees that are based here at City Hall. Somewhat related to that, and for the very same reason, is the lunch hour. And so for the same reason, we have people that are in and out midday on the lunch hour. And historically, it's been the finance department staff that have answered the main line, and they've monitored the front door for customer service during the lunch hour. So as a second request, I'm interested in hearing feedback from the city council about whether or not there might be support for closing City Hall from 12:30 to 1:30, which would allow the employees to take lunch break at the same time, again, so that when the building is open, we have staff here that are present to greet the public as they come into the building, as opposed to having access to the building and maybe only having a handful of people here while people are looking for staff support. So that basically concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The only other comment that I would make before I take questions is that as part of adjusting the schedule and as part of reopening back up to the public, the building division will switch to new hours. So the building official will be in town and on site Tuesdays and Thursdays. He is prepared to have over-the-counter office hours from 9 to 12 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then inspections, building inspections can be coordinated in advance, early in the morning or in the afternoons, and then all day on Mondays and Wednesdays. And as was the norm before, building inspections aren't scheduled on Friday. There were some exceptions that were made in the past, but the standard was not to offer building inspection services on Friday. So that completes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, is there any questions from council for staff? Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a comment and just maybe a little more information. I think one of the questions that I think popped up in the chat already is how will the public know what Fridays were open, what Fridays were closed? And I think you've worked out a schedule for the whole year that will be posted on the front door as well as on the city's website and broadcast through our social media accounts.
Correct. Thank you very much. So yes, we've already prepared a schedule. So should council approve this tonight, it will be posted everywhere. We'll push it out. I'll include it in the Friday updates. And I expect that it'll take a little bit of time to have people get used to the schedule. But I think they will with some effort on our part to make sure people, we push that information out through all of our usual means. And we'll keep the schedule posted on the door.
Yeah, I think this is a good, it's a benefit that we're offering our employees to be able to work that type of a schedule and have every other Friday off. And I think, part of the challenge will be the learning curve for the public to know when we're open, when we're not. But I think since we've been closed quite a bit last year due to COVID, that probably will be our advantage, that people think right now are, City Hall's closed completely to walk-in traffic. So we will be opening next week, and this will be a benefit. I think even having every other Friday closed, I think it will work out well for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Any other council comments? Okay, seeing none. Ashley, is there any public comment regarding the changes to City Hall hours?
I am not seeing any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm just gonna agree with what Bill said, and having worked with many agencies over the years as a contractor, I can tell you it's pretty normal to see a city hall closed from 12:30 to 1:30. That's kind of a norm for a lot of agencies to be closed for a lunch hour. And I totally agree with the Mayor Pro Tem about the benefit of every other Friday off. And I think this is perfect timing. City Hall has been closed so much over the last year that this is really the time, if we're gonna make a change and make an adjustment, now's the time to do it. And everybody will just know it, starting when we open, whenever we open back up. Are we due to open up next Monday? Is that correct?
Next
Kathleen?
Monday. And as part of some of the efforts that we've been working on, we are working on a number of improvements that are going to be incrementally rolled out that will allow for better service and better access to information. For example, the online utility billing and utility payment that'll be rolled out in the next couple months. We're still working on getting our phone system reconfigured. That upgrade is in process. So we are working on different platforms that will allow for self-service should residents want to do so, but then we'll be available to help those folks that still need in-person or more individual attention.
Okay,
Mayor
thank you.
Cowan, sorry, there was a
Yes.
second part to the question in the chat. The first part was how were we going to let the general public know, which we touched on, but the second part was asking about possibly staggering the days off Friday and Monday between staff.
So I can respond to that.
Yes, please do.
Yes, so most of the staff stagger on a Friday. We do have one of the 8 that is off on the Monday. And again, I think if we try and have people take in different, people want to back it up to the weekend so that they have a weekend. We still run into the situation where we're going to have fewer staff. And if we stagger the days off, it just means from our own internal operation, we will have less efficiencies because now we'll be accommodating a Friday and a Monday. So I understand it's a switch. I will share that back in the 90s when we had the recession in the 90s, many of the cities in San Diego County went to a 980 schedule and they went dark every other Friday. And it was a transition for those communities when we first implemented those changes. But it actually, people got used to it. So I expect it'll be a change, but we'll work really hard to make sure people know when we're open. And when we are open, we're providing better service than we would have if we had these staggered days off. So I'm hopeful that people will get used to it and they'll find that our consistent service is a positive.
I agree. Is there any other comment, Ashley?
There are no other comments in the chat and I'm not seeing anybody with their hand up.
Okay, thank you. I believe we probably need to put this in the form of a motion and vote on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion, Mayor Cowan.
Okay, go ahead.
I would move that we modify the city hall hours to every other Friday and also close during the lunch hour and align the, I'm kind of messed up on what it's called, the 480.
The 980, yeah.
980, sorry. The 980 schedule. And if it isn't clear, I'd ask the city manager to clarify, but I would like to move the item.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New to make the recommended adjustments to City Hall schedule. Ashley, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren.
Aye.
Councilmember New.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi.
Aye.
And Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, we're going to move on to our next discussion item, which is to hear a little bit about the American Rescue Plan. A little overview from our city manager, Kathleen.
Thank you very much. I prepared a PowerPoint, so let me see if I can set up the screen share. And slideshow. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's hope I can move this along. Okay, I think I have the right button. Okay, thank you very much. This item relates to the American Rescue Plan, which was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden on March 11th. Attached to the staff report is a presentation from the National League of Cities that provides more detailed information than what was in the staff report, but I'm adapting a presentation that the interim CAO for Yolo County presented to the Board of Supervisors because it was really well done. So we wanted to quickly run through what this plan means at a high level and then drill down what it means to the city of Winters. And is this moving? Is the slide deck going through?
Yes.
Are you on? Okay, great. So the American Rescue Plan, it was an act that was signed, approved by Congress and signed into law. The total value of the plan, and we refer to it as the ARP, is $1.9 trillion. And it provides financial support directly to residents, businesses, state and local governments, and a number of industries. It is the ARP is the fifth package that was approved by Congress to address the impacts due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and all of them in aggregate total about $5 trillion. So the amount of funding that has been approved by the federal government and the presidents, the previous and the current one, is absolutely historic in terms of providing support to the American public. And I wanted to briefly run through the slides so people understand the scope of the funding that is included in this $1.9 trillion. So there is funding that is set aside directly for individuals and families. These benefits are here on the slide before you. There is funding that has been set aside that is directly to benefit businesses in the way of paycheck protection programs. There's an economic injury disaster loan program with a total of $15 billion. Restaurant revitalization program, $28.6 billion for restaurants and bars. They were heavily impacted, as we well know, as a result of this pandemic. And there's $24 billion that has been set aside for a stabilization fund to support childcare providers and those that are eligible. There's also money that has been set aside for public health, $14 billion for vaccines, $47.8 billion for testing, $7.6 billion for the public health workforce. And again, this is because we are not out of the woods yet with the pandemic, and vaccination and testing are cornerstones to helping to control the spread of the virus. But what that means for government is on this slide right here. And so this is a breakdown. All of the states will share approximately $193.5 billion. Indigenous tribes, Native American people, they'll receive $20 billion. Cities, for the first time ever, are sharing $65.1 billion, and that is earmarked for the 19,000 cities and incorporated communities across the United States. Counties will also share in $65.1 billion. $123 billion is set aside for schools, transit agencies, airports. They have an allocation combined total of about $38 billion. $10 billion has been set up for capital projects, and FEMA has been earmarked to receive $50 billion. So it's a tremendous amount of money that was included in this package. For California and for the region, California is earmarked to receive about $26 billion, and the county and the 4 cities within the county will be sharing approximately $84 million. On top of that, the local school districts within Yolo County will receive another $41 million. And I should point out that these are estimates right now. We're waiting for confirmation from the Department of Treasury. We don't expect the dollars to shift too dramatically, but they are approximate amounts. And this is what has been, this is what we expect locally here for our various jurisdictions. So Woodland is earmarked to receive approximately $11.8 million, West Sacramento $10.7 million, Davis $17.1 million, and the tiny and mighty city of Winters is earmarked for $1.3 million. On top of that, the Winters Joint Unified School District is also estimated to receive approximately $1.5 million. So the money does come with restrictions. It's intended to be direct, it's intended to be flexible, but it does have restrictions and it does have some overarching goals. So all of the funds that are allocated to the various jurisdictions, and for Winters, that's approximately $1.3 million. We must spend all of that money by December 31st, 2024, and we are allowed to draw down that money in 2 tranches. So 2 drawdowns that must be separated by 12 months. So if you can imagine, the U.S. Department of Treasury is going to be processing a lot of transactions. And so we're limited to 2 drawdowns, 12 months apart. There are 4 broad categories for using the funds. The first category relates to direct responses to the pandemic and its negative impacts. And this is through direct aid to households, businesses, nonprofits, industries, and government. The second category that is specifically included is premium pay for essential employees or grants to their employers. The third category relates to government services that may have been affected by revenue reduction due to the pandemic. This is primarily related to lost tax revenue or facility use fees. And there's also a broad category associated with making investments very specifically in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. We may not use in any way, shape, or form any of this funding to contribute towards pensions or pension liability, and we can't use any of this money to create a reduction in any existing taxes. So in terms of how we might identify projects that we could use the $1.3 million to help fund, we have spent a little bit of time talking internally about some guidelines. We recommend that the money be used for one-time projects that don't create ongoing budget impacts in a negative way, so no ongoing expenditures. Instead, we believe the money should be invested to create opportunities for ongoing revenue. We think that the money, we might consider using the money for capital projects or investments that were specifically delayed due to the pandemic. There were projects that we wanted to do, but we couldn't because of the pandemic. We have some projects that are specifically related to water, sewer, or even broadband potentially, and that the funds be earmarked for that purpose. For example, the influence screen at the wastewater treatment facility, we know we need to budget for that. We haven't had funding for that, so that potentially is a project. It's really important that this, the $1.3 million be invested very strategically to maximize this opportunity to increase revenue opportunities. And the overarching goal of this aid package is to really help our economy recover from the pandemic and to help revitalize those areas that were in the industries that were decimated as a result of the pandemic. We would also recommend that, given the allocations to all the other different types of jurisdictions and the other categories, that we monitor very, very closely what other entities are doing and we avoid duplicating efforts. So for example, rental assistance to low to moderate income people, there's a lot of money that's going to the state and the county. The county helps fund that program. We would recommend that nonprofits and leaders that are providing those public services take the lead on providing those services, and that our allocation be utilized more specifically for things that we would ordinarily do as the city of Winters. And we really want to be thoughtful about how we use this money to make sure that these are transformational projects that have a long-lasting impact, a positive benefit, and a positive impact to the Winters community. In the report, I've mentioned briefly some projects. They're here on the slide. Our first proposed drawdown would occur pretty quickly as soon as the guidance is released from the U.S. Department of Treasury, and we expect to receive that in the next 30 to 60 days. We would come back to the City Council with some recommendations for your consideration, and then once approved, we would submit that package to the U.S. Treasury for the drawdown. Given that we have a limited duration to be able to spend this money for the next 2.5 years, we would expect to make recommendations that are targeting economic development programs or consultants that would assist with business attraction, business retention, helping to support our businesses, stabilize and grow, which benefits our local economy. One particular project that is a stated priority for this year is taking a look at our downtown outdoor dining area, our parking policies, the dumpster service, where those dumpsters are going to be located, and perhaps funding a consultant that can help us wrap together all the previous work that's been done in this area, and then create a framework for having that conversation with the community and bringing those recommendations forward through planning commission and then back up to the city council. There are also some other potential opportunities that have been discussed in the past related to economic development strategies, perhaps rezoning parts of Road 89 or our freeway frontage to make them eligible for sustainable wage job creation. That could be another project that we could work on. And the recommendation would be is that we work on those earlier as opposed to later to maximize that, the limited timeline for expending the funds. So as I mentioned, our proposed steps would be to take on the next 30 to 60 days to pull together some projects. Here's some input tonight from the council and from the community. We'll pull those project lists together. We'll do some research, get that ready, and then we can bring a plan back to the city council for consideration quickly after the treasury guidance is released. And then for the second tranche, we have 12 months between drawdowns. The balance remaining is something that we can take a little bit more time to consider how we want to program. We can include it as part of our conversation with a council goal setting workshop later on this summer. And then we can bring it back for council consideration and approval. And we would submit that 12 months after the first drawdown is submitted. And that would actually line up with the budget development for fiscal year 22-23. Because the timing will line up a little bit. So we'll be able to use the second drawdown and align it with whatever our budget proposals are for the following fiscal year. So there's some alignment there. And then finally, I just wanted to stress that this is really historic. It's an opportunity to invest in some projects and some programs that we might not otherwise be able to do. And that the real goal is to be able to maximize this opportunity to really leverage it for the most possible good for the community. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Let me stop
Council have
sharing.
any questions for Kathleen? Anybody? Ashley, do we have any questions from the public?
I do not see anybody with their hand up.
Okay. Well, I think this is nice to find out a little bit about what we've got coming and ways we can use it. I know we've got a lot of things that, we'd like to get done, and I'm looking forward to our goal setting, little session that we're going to have this summer to help us with some of this. But you did mention a couple of things that definitely piqued my interest, and one is the maybe helping out a little bit more than we planned with the garbage situation downtown, and the rezoning and some of the recommendations from the EDAC for County Road 89 and out by the freeway. Those are things that we've been wanting to do and have been recommended to do for quite some time that would definitely have long-term effect as far as economic development. So I think those are important things to look at, what we can do and stretch these dollars as much as we can to work on items that, as you stated, will pay off over a longer period of time.
Kate Laddish has her hand up.
Okay, Kate, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan, and thank you, Kathleen, for the presentation. I had a question on one of the slides, the possible projects slide, where the first drawdown would be based on economic harm experienced by the city, i.e. revenue loss from decreased taxes and shuttered facilities. Oh, and I realized I forgot to say my name and address, Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21.
We all know it.
I figured you probably had it, but and so I was wondering if you could take just a second to explain that a little bit more. I'm assuming that this means it's economic harm that the city has experienced because of loss of taxes that otherwise would have come to the city if restaurants and other businesses hadn't been shuttered either permanently or temporarily. And I'm sure that there's some sort of intricate dynamic between the private enterprise and what the city can do, and I'm interested in hearing more about that.
So we have to certify for why we're receiving the funds, and then we have to certify how we're using them. And so our thought is that we can show economic harm due to lost revenue by comparing a base year to the next 12 months. And so we would have lost sales tax, gas tax, facility rental, program fees. For example, stuff at the pool was shuttered, the community center was shuttered, everybody stopped driving. We've got a lot of lost revenue. So that's really easy to show. We also, under economic harm, can look at hotel winters, and even though we don't have tax revenue from a base year, we can clearly substantiate what we would have anticipated receiving had we not had the pandemic, and use that information under sort of economic harm. So that helps justify what we're asking for in terms of revenue replenishment, and then we'd still need to turn around and program it and spend it for any eligible activity. So we haven't put pen to paper yet to actually sort of tally up potential costs. We're waiting for some input from the council and from the community. But when we come back with an expenditure plan, it would only be for a portion of the 1.3 that's available to us.
Okay, thanks. And did I hear right that it would be in comparison to the upcoming year, or to the year?
No, so it's the year without COVID compared to the year with COVID. So a fiscal year and a calendar year are really easy breaks for us, just based on how we account for things. But it would be very easy for us to substantiate the harm that the city itself received, incurred as a result of the pandemic. And you're right, a lot of that harm is due to economic harm to other businesses, i.e. sales tax.
Terrific. Great. Thank you so much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I think one thing that we all need to remember, and this is something that our financial director tells us often, remember, these are one-time funds, so that we make sure we don't spend them on something that after they're gone, that we have that recurring debt that we have to try to find money to cover somewhere. So we need to keep that in mind. But I think what the city manager is looking for direction from council in various ways. And I agree with the mayor, the economic development would be kind of at the top of my list. There's a lot of things in the economic development report that are recommended that we could look into funding some of those items. I'd like to see what we could do to help the chamber. I know they had a lot of lost revenue due to the shutdown last year. Our newly formed Downtown Business Association, they're just getting up and running. If it's possible to help them with some type of a grant and fund them. I know there's still guidelines that haven't been released yet, so we don't know exactly how we want to use all these, but there's, I think, whatever we can do for our senior groups. There's the senior center furnishings program that we're trying to build up. Some of the senior services that the city provides, if we could give them any help. Of course, the sewer and water projects, we have well 9 that I think we're short on money for developing that, which would help build up our water pressure. The wastewater treatment plant, the influent screen. And another big one, I think, something that came up last year and all of us are quite aware of, coming up with money to cover the specific plan for the North Area planning, and whether we're able to use any of this money to help get that ball rolling on that would be good to look into. I think the community center is a very key place that it's a city resource that we use for a lot of different things. When there's an emergency, that's our center that people get to. We use it for voting. We use it for just so many different things that if we could look into possibly upgrading our heating and air conditioning systems for the community center. I don't know if that's an eligible expense or not, but it would be something worth looking into. We have to figure out what we're going to do with that building for long term as well. But I think that's a very important facility. We're putting a backup generator in there, I believe. So if we could look into that. There's always park projects that need help that we weren't able to do because we didn't have as much tax money coming in last year. And of course, yeah, the TOT that was lost out on with the hotels being closed so much. So I think all those are some of the things I came up with, but I know there's there's lots more, and I'm sure we could come up with a list of projects and spend this money many times over if possible. But those are just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, those are some great thoughts. I agree with all of them. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
I have some comments.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Lauren.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to thank Kathleen Treppa for the presentation and also Kate Laddish for the questions. I think it was very important to clarify how the first drawdown, what it would entail. I agree with the mayor that economic development and potential rezoning efforts might be some of our highest priorities. But when I heard Mayor Pro Tem mention both the chamber and the Downtown Business Association, I wanted to remind you that they have both asked us to investigate cannabis business in our town. And I would support using some of the money to do that investigation if it will bring greater wealth to us in the long term. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Kathleen, do we have enough to get going?
We have plenty. Thank you very much.
And when you're calculating all those fees that we lost, one business that was there paying TOT the entire year before was Abbey House.
Abbey House Inn.
And, and it was a significant amount. So, and they were pretty much shut down for almost the entirety of the pandemic as well. So, yeah, definitely a lot of lost dollars for the city out there. So, but I think it's also important, one of the points you made about not doubling up on things. We need to spread this out as many places as we can. And we've done a lot with the businesses, and I know the businesses are getting a big chunk out of this separately from this money. So we want to make sure, we're not piling it all in one pile. We want to spread this around as much as we can for as many benefits as possible. All right. If there's no other comment on this item, we're going to move on to our next item, which is the introduction and first reading of ordinance 2021-01. And I think this is between Kathleen and our city attorney.
Actually, it'll be our assistant city attorney, Joanna Ginn. Thank you.
Okay, Joanna.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Ordinance 2021-01 would amend section 16.12.010 of the Winters Municipal Code to allow for dedications of or offers of dedications to be made pursuant to the Subdivision Map Act in addition to a grant deed. And a dedication occurs when a property owner offers to dedicate private property for a public use, such as for streets and parks, and the city accepts the property. Currently, under the code, dedications or offers of dedications must be made by grant deed. However, this means that dedications cannot be made by a statement on a parcel map or a final map alone, even when the maps must be prepared. A separate instrument would still need to be prepared and recorded in addition to the map. This ordinance would amend the code to provide more flexibility and efficiency by allowing developers to dedicate by map without a deed. And the ordinance is attached to the staff report, and the staff recommendation is for council to waive first reading and to read by title ordinance 2021-1. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, is there any questions from council on this item? Seeing none, is there any questions from the public on this item? Ashley?
I am not seeing any hands up, and there's nobody in the chat.
Okay, then I think we need a motion, correct?
Yes.
Mayor, I moved staff recommendation.
I'll
Thank
second.
you.
Lauren
Okay,
seconds.
we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biasi and a second by Councilmember Lauren. Ashley, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item, which is a public hearing to consider an application for funding under the fiscal year 2020-2021 state administered community development block grant under the CARES Act. Kathleen, you're on mute. There
Sorry,
you go.
sorry, I was too excited about setting up the screen share. I forgot to unmute myself and then I lost myself behind the presentation. All right, let me see if I can do this again. Oops, now I can't see what I'm looking at. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I did a very brief presentation. I know we're running late this evening because this topic is a little bit convoluted, and I'm happy to share that Colleen Brock from Yolo County Housing is here to support me in this presentation because this is a little bit of a convoluted item. So tonight's item is the public hearing to consider a grant application for funding under the Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2021 that is being funded through the CARES Act specifically to address impacts associated with the pandemic. So this is separate and apart from the regular CDBG program that we also talk about. So I prepared a slide to try and hopefully make it a little bit easier. And so by way of background, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, receives funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD or HUD, for the Community Development Block Grant Program. And the state allocates money to non-entitlement jurisdictions like the city of Winter. So we rely on the state to receive our CDBG allocation. As a result of the pandemic, the CARES Act provided 3 separate allocations through the CDBG program to jurisdictions for HUD and HCD to distribute. So we refer to this as CDBG CV1, CV2, and CV3. So there are 3 separate allocations. The first grant opportunity, CV1, was available last summer, and council approved a grant application for $79,129 to be awarded to Winners Healthcare for COVID testing, and then the description was broad enough to include vaccination, and at the time, no vaccines existed. So under the CDBG rules, no activities may occur for reimbursement under the grant until the state can prepare and execute an agreement with the city to sign. Unfortunately, given how much extra transaction work is happening and all the extra funding that is out there in support of communities, we only received the agreement for this first tranche, this first CDBG COVID allocation in March, 9 months after the council approved the grant application. By that point, Winners Healthcare had already developed its own far more flexible funding to be able to support its efforts for COVID testing and for vaccinations. And at this point, they don't need the $79,000. And so they are not accepting it because they've got other sources of revenue and of funding that are easier to access. So they're giving it back to us. So now tonight we have to reallocate CV1. In January, following one of the stimulus bills that was passed by Congress and signed at that point by President Trump, more money became available under what we're calling CV2 and CV3. And the numbers are on the slide. So we have approximately about $350,000 in community development block grant money, COVID related, right now tonight. I should note that CV1 reallocation will be reduced by 3% because the state has shared that since they now have to reissue or prepare a new agreement with the city of Winters, that they're going to reduce our allocation by 3%. So now CV1 is $74,302. There are different rules or eligibility requirements for CV1, CV2, and CV3. So on the slide are the eligibility guidelines for CV1. All of this related to the pandemic. So it could be assistance to businesses due to the pandemic, public services related to COVID and providing support, facility improvements related to COVID healthcare and homeless housing needs, or acquisition of real property to be used for the treatment or recovery of infectious diseases in response to COVID-19. So that's the eligibility criteria for CV1, the first $74,000. CV2 and CV3 are being processed at the same time. They have the same eligibility requirements. Again, public services related to the pandemic, including rental assistance, homeless and shelter operations, health and education support and supplies. So we're putting a pin in education support and supplies. Public facility and infrastructure improvements with a COVID-19 nexus, public acquisition related to healthcare facilities, shelters, and housing assistance for low to moderate income housing, targeting vulnerable populations, and again, assistance to businesses related to the pandemic. And I should say that these seem to be broad categories, but once you drill down into all the requirements, it's very narrow. We spent a lot of time in the last couple months trying to find projects or programs that we could use this CDBG COVID money for to help support, and we really struggled. And so we have ultimately arrived at our recommendation, which is to take the entire kit and caboodle, all of it, about $350,000, and apply it for the benefit of nonprofits like RISE, who provide supportive services to disadvantaged youth and those families that have been dramatically impacted by remote education. They are a year behind now in terms of their academics. Now, we had originally considered allocating $50,000 towards RISE. They're active here in Winters as they are throughout Yolo County. And we have the RISE Executive Director here, Dr. Chico Zendejas. He's here and he can offer a few words about what his entity provides in the way of services. But this was the grant application we're suggesting be broader, so it would support RISE and any other entity that provides supportive educational academic services to disadvantaged families, particularly with school-age youth. So that could potentially be our own after-school program. It could be a program that is run through the county library. It could be another nonprofit, and that as long as it met the eligibility requirements and met all of the CDBG program requirements, as Colleen will make sure that they do, then we could create an funding umbrella to help support a variety of different nonprofits. So there are likely a lot of questions. Specifically, one that we researched today is we had looked at using this money to be able to support HVAC upgrades at the community center, for example. It's a public facility. We do a lot of events there, COVID testing. It houses, for the time being until the senior center's construction, the nutrition program for the seniors. We learned today that we can't use this money specifically for a public facility that has broad public access. It has to target a population that meets the federal eligibility requirements, which means seniors by default and those low to moderate income families. And so the community center, city hall, any of our other public facilities, because they're open to the public and they serve more than just those populations or those communities or those groups that are automatically eligible under federal rules, we can't use this money to support those facilities. So we're recommending tonight that we create a program that supports RISE, and it also supports other nonprofits with youth and helping them get caught up with their education and their academics. Should the council support that, we've written the resolution in a way that is broad enough that you're authorizing me to sign the agreement when it comes in from HCD. We expect that it would take 6 to 9 months to get the next agreement. So we'll have ample time to do outreach to try and create a program for various nonprofits. We could also bring some of the specific programs back to City Council if you'd like to take a more active role in what that looks like. But tonight, what we're asking is that you receive the report, ask any questions of us. And at that point, you would open the public hearing, take public comment, close the public hearing, and then the resolution 2021-12 approves the application as we've described in the staff report. It would authorize the city manager to enter into agreements to be determined consistent with educational support for disadvantaged youth under the CDBG program rules. And it would authorize the city manager, if the city is awarded the grant, to execute the grant agreement with HCD. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Colleen Brock is here and she's also available to answer any questions. And we do have Dr. Zendejas available, and he is prepared to provide a little bit of an overview about the RISE program and their services here for the Winters community.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Council, is there any questions for Kathleen before we open up the public hearing?
Yeah, just have a quick question for Kathleen.
Okay.
For clarification, you said the way we would write this grant application, would it possibly include use for some of the senior services as well?
I think I'm going to defer to Colleen because we did a public hearing notice, and I don't recall specifically how we characterize it in the public hearing notice. So we would need to be consistent with that if we were going to take action tonight. And if we deviate too far afield from what Colleen will tell us we can do, we would need to issue a new public hearing notice and then bring it back. But I think Colleen is still with us. Are you with us, Colleen?
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Kathleen is correct. And also, so you know, were you talking about senior services or something else?
Yes, senior services.
Okay, because we are going to be bringing you another application soon for CDBG funds, to the regular CDBG funds, for a program supervisor for the senior center and program planning. So that's not related to COVID, and that's part of the problem with this funding is it's to serve low-income folks, and you have to have a COVID nexus. So the other funding that doesn't have as many rules is easier related to senior services.
Got it. Thank you.
And that's a relative term.
Okay, I want to go back to part of what you said, Kathleen, with our own after-school program. Some of the things that Nicole takes care of and handles for us. That seems to me like that could qualify as, COVID related for sure. With everybody having to work from home and just the, Zoom school and all that. Is that something that we should be able to help fund with some of these monies?
So Colleen and I were talking about that a little bit more today. She's done some additional research. So we think yes, particularly if we were going to do any expansion of services, because she's already grant funded to within her existing program parameters. But she is providing supportive. She is providing support more than just a before and after school program. There is educational support, there is tutoring, there is targeted attention. And so the degree that she can expand that and maximize that, potentially that means that her program or that program, the city's program, could be expanded with the CDBG COVID money.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:16. And anybody from the public wishes to speak to this item, maybe we can start with Tico.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and good evening, City Manager. My name is Tico with RISE, and I'll be very brief, but RISE, we've been serving Western rural Yolo County for over 30 years. And in particular, in the city of Winters, we've had a satellite office in Winters for the last 10 years. And so currently for the last COVID year, we've been open. We've kept our doors open the entire time to serve our most vulnerable populations. And we completely changed our protocols, right? We made sure that our staff and the community was safe, but we continued to provide essential services to smaller groups of students. So in person, we've been supporting individuals while they've been doing their distance learning at our RISE site. And we've been doing that 4 days a week, all day, providing support for families, and really proud that we haven't had one student test positive or one family that we've served test positive with COVID. So what we're hoping to do is provide more services. You know, RISE, although we've been in the city of Winters specifically for the last 10 years, we do have limited resources. And so our team is small, but we provide a lot of help to families and individuals in the city of Winters. And we're looking to increase our capacity to be able to provide more critical services. So we're looking to expand our impact to the young people, to our students that have been impacted by COVID and families that have been impacted by COVID. And looking forward to working with the city as these fundings do come available to be able to meet specific needs that meet the specifics of the grant, of the potential funds that we can use. So we're totally open to working with other nonprofits and partnering to do the best that we can for our families. I'd love to come back in a future time, hopefully in person soon, so I can report to the council on all of our wide services that we provide in Winters, but I'm definitely open to any questions that you have for me tonight.
Hey, thank you, Tico. Good to see you too. Okay, is there any other public comment? Ashley?
I am not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Okay, Colleen, would you like to add anything?
He saw me move. I think, yes. And so the focus originally was to be working with RISE, but then as we discussed a little bit further about, other families that maybe live right outside of town or even in parts of town where there isn't broadband, for instance, to do remote learning and those kinds of things. And not that this was specifically said, but wearing my hat from Yolo County Housing, and as Pierre just found out, there's over 160 school-age kids that live in El Rio Villa, as Kathleen wants me to say instead of Villa. And they don't have internet out there. So, and there's other kids I'm sure that live, in properties and farms and such outside of town. Definitely with the school program and the RISE program, there is a need and hopefully those can be expanded. But if there is worry about money, possibly not that amount of money not being spent, I think that Yolo County Housing actually has a after school program out at our facility as well. And it's been closed all of this time. But to bring the kids back and to do that or even do remote tutoring could be helpful for those kids as well. And so I think that after everything that Kathleen and I have explored for all options, getting our youth, up to the capacity that they should be to be our productive future citizens is super important. And I don't think that we'll have any issues with being able to spend that pot of money with all of the nonprofits and folks that could partner to make this happen.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is a good direction to go in, given all the restrictions that we have on, where these funds can be used. It's too bad there's, so many restrictions on it because we have a lot of other areas that can use it as well. But with those restrictions, I think the RISE program would be good to use it towards that, as well as the other disadvantaged youth programs that we have in our area. So I think we're moving the right way with this kind of recommendation, in my opinion.
Thank you, I agree. Any other comment from council or public? Okay. All right, I think we need to adopt a resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution 20, I think it's 2020 to 2021. I'm not sure the number, for the Community Development Block Grant for CARES and for CARES Act and for COVID-19 response and recovery.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. Ashley, we can do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Tico and Colleen, for helping
Thank
us out
you.
with this. We appreciate it.
Mayor,
Oh.
one quick comment. I
Yes,
just
go
would
ahead.
like to invite Dr. Zendejas back at a future meeting. I think that would be great to have him come and tell us all the things that RISE is doing and what you can do with this grant money, assuming we receive it all, that is. So look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you
For
very
sure.
much. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all. All right. I think we're moving on to the city manager's report.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'll keep it very brief. So we have one more week to get public input into our housing element, to have them participate in that remote presentation and take the survey. I checked today, we've had 113 respondents to the housing element survey, and I'd like to stress how important it is for public input. This is a 1 year, it's our opportunity once every 8 years to update our policies related to housing in this town. It helps identify potential locations. It helps to identify barriers to housing, and it helps inform policies to lift those barriers to housing. So it's really, really important that the public participate in this, in the survey. We're gonna push the survey out in English and Spanish, again, to people on our distribution list. We'll include it again in the Friday update. Hopefully the Winners Express can put another plug on their online version, but we really are encouraging the public to participate in this process. The survey closes April 12th, so that is next Monday, and then we will finalize our draft recommendations and bring that forward we'll finalize the draft, and then we'll release the draft for public input. I did want to make a comment about Measure A and its applicability to the housing element, because that's a question that's been posed. So the housing element does not change any of the ordinary process associated with processing development proposals. It doesn't usurp or change any of what would be our typical process. So anything that is included in the Measure A area would still be subject to a community planning specific planning process for the areas outside of the city. And so any of the areas that are identified in the housing element as potential housing locations, that doesn't negate what would be the applicable process to process those development proposals. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that this doesn't change anything at all related to Measure A. Also related to housing, NeighborWorks, a self-help project. We've been waiting very eagerly for some feedback from NeighborWorks. They are still trying to pull together all of their financing and pull their package together. We submitted a draft development agreement to NeighborWorks back in December, I believe it was. We have not gotten any feedback back from NeighborWorks, but I know they're working very hard to try and pull everything together. I suspect that the housing market costs of construction and some of their other financing mechanisms are coming to bear a little bit in terms of how they're able to pull this all together. Once we have more information, we'll certainly release that. In the meantime, we've been collecting names and contact information for people who are interested, but we don't have any firm updates as to where we are with that project and when we will see it start to move forward. And I understand that Blue Mountain Terrace should hopefully, unless something has changed again, should hopefully open in May. And they are working very actively with applicants too. And I suspect that facility will be full within the first week of its opening. And that's all that I have.
Okay, awesome.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, could you please clarify for the record that the public hearing closed prior to the adoption of the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
Right.
Yes, close the public hearing. Thank you. My bad. Haven't done one for a while. Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen. And yeah, I'm disappointed to hear there's only been 100 and what'd you say, 130?
113. 113.
113, wow. Yeah, I thought we would get a lot better response in the survey and the questionnaire on the housing element when, especially with, you know, the effects that Measure A had on Winters and the community at large and the turnout we had for that. Yeah, what happened to all those folks? I really hoped we'd see a very large response to the survey. So everybody get out there and take the survey. It doesn't take that long.
It's
I
on,
did it a
it's
couple
on the
weeks ago
city's
myself.
landing page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate Laddish added to the chat. She was wondering if it'd be possible to add the closing date of the housing element survey to the city's website.
I believe it's on the description, but maybe I'm wrong because we pushed it out a few times. So I will check and I will make sure, excuse me, we update it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I think that's it. We'll close the meeting at 8:28 p.m. Still way ahead of Davis. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.